Good evening and welcome to the Esports Live FPL podcast for Game Week 2, powered by Esports Live and in partnership with FPL Addicts. I'm Ollie Walker-Peel, and alongside me tonight is my right-hand man in the commentary box, Elliot Craig. We've also got Jack, senior management at Esports Live, and the previously mentioned FPL guru, Matt from FPL Addicts. How are we all?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well.
Great, thanks, Ollie.
Obviously, you can see we've got a diverse range of clubs on show. Obviously, me being a massive Rovers fan, obviously not quite in the Premier League just yet, but obviously repping the mighty Rovers here. We've got Elliot with the old school Newcastle top. I think it's a Newcastle Brown Ale one, right? From
1999, mate. 1999.
The way we've got Jack with Man United. The Red Devils not so mighty anymore.
We'll be back, Ollie. We'll be back.
And we've got Matt, obviously, with the second biggest team in North London in top.
Mate, we'll be the first one when Bale gets the deal through. That's
gonna say
number one.
You must be happy with the result this morning, then, wouldn't you? You went 1-0 down, I saw, but
yeah. Look, I'll take any win in Bulgaria.
Look, we'll get on to all of that a bit later, including the potential incomings of Gareth Bale and everything regarding transfers just later on. But before all that, I think we're just going to go back to game week 1 and just explain how we all went pretty much in the league we've got going and any improvements we should make going forward. So me personally, just to kick off, I had a good week. Could have probably been better though. I had 60 points and captain Harry Kane. So it could have been tons better if I'd have got a bit lucky with the captain choice. Obviously, I've had a bit of a nightmare there, let's say. But of course, you can't have it all your own way. Should be up on the screen there now. That's the game week 1 team I had with the double Southampton that didn't quite pay off. The double Leicester did. And then obviously Van Dijk, Aubameyang all paid off. Salah with a hat-trick. And the Kane captaincy didn't quite pay off. So currently sitting around 1.6 million in the world and sitting at 29th in the league. Matt, over to you just quickly. How did you get on?
Well, I had a good week, 72 points. That's Mo Salah, though. Like, I can thank Salah with his hat-trick against Leeds. So that pretty much got me over the line. Aubameyang and James Justin were the only other two that really got me the big points. So yeah, not a bad week. I would have liked to sort of hit 80 to 85, but 72 points is well above the average. So I'll take that on week 1.
And now, Elliot, obviously we have a lot of back and forth about FPL. It's something that's key in our conversations. Obviously the bit of banter that goes back and forth. Have you backed it up this week?
I did because I beat you, so that's what's important. I beat you by 3 points. I got 63 points. So I was similar to Matt. I went with James Justin in defence. He and Van Dijk were the only ones that got me positive returns because, just like you, I went with a double Southampton in Kyle Walker-Peters and McCarthy, who unfortunately conceded to Crystal Palace, I believe it was. They lost 1-0, which was quite unexpected. Southampton were quite a solid team towards the end of last season, but they seem to be doing a lot worse this year. And I also had Trent and Matt Doherty in my defence, who both two very expensive defenders that didn't do anything for me this week. So I'm hoping with Trent against Chelsea, he scored in their last 2 meetings. He scored that wonderful free kick last time out. So I'm hoping he can do something. Regarding captaincy, I went with Aubameyang. Should have gone Salah, but I mean, you can't really complain with Aubameyang. He scored a goal, so he got me 14 points in the end after the captaincy. And then Salah was the only other one that did anything for me. And then Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, and Alan Saint-Maximin all blanked for me, unfortunately. But 63 points to take into game week 2, so it's not the worst start, not the best start.
And Jack, how about you?
I think I'm bottom of the pile as we go to start, as we kick off, boys. So I finished on 49 points. And listen, my first excuse, if I can get it in early, is I'm making a return to fantasy football after 5 years out of the game. I did finish on a miserable run 5 years ago, but I've made a return now. You know, week one was steady. I put Williams straight in. I felt he was going to deliver, and he did. So he definitely carried the team to get to that 49 points for me. I had Aubameyang in there alongside him. And I did choose Mane instead of Salah, so that was the first mistake. And obviously, captaining Harry Kane up top for me. He didn't deliver, as we know, so I blame Matt for that. But in defence, Justin and Mitchell, of all people, with Alexander-Arnold not really doing up to much. Justin and Mitchell carried me in defence. So, listen, 49 is a positive one, but as I'll allude to maybe later on in the pod, I'm going to make some major changes.
So it sounds like we've all got quite similar templates to our teams, and then it's kind of just come down to captain choices or maybe those one or two other players. So, but yeah, look, myself, Ollie, and Elliot did do a little bit better than you, unfortunately for yourself, mate. But yeah, look, we'll look forward to hearing what changes you've made for game week 2.
Yeah, well, I think obviously with Man United, Man City and Burnley being the 3 main teams that you'd have FPL assets for, I think it was Villa as well that didn't have a game in game week 1. But most of the teams in the world were quite similar. Most people had the Aubameyangs, the Salahs, and tried to go with the cheap defenders and James Justin and Mitchell and Walker Peters and stuff. So it was quite similar. But glad to have all the teams back playing this week so you can spice it up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, class. Burnley aren't going to do anything for me because I have a rule as a Rovers fan. This is my 4th season playing FPL. I don't know if I stuck to it the first season, but everyone since, I know for sure, I haven't had a Burnley player in from start to finish. It's a rule that I've implemented, so there's no way I'm bringing in Tarkovsky or Pope or a Chris Wood. There's no way you can see me doing anything of that. So that'll affect me. For sure will be on the horizon looking forward. So that's how we went on. I presume no chips are being played this early on.
Don't think so from me. Definitely not.
No, not from my end. Although I don't think that with the Salah, like a triple captain him game week 1 wouldn't have been the worst idea with his hat trick. Because you got to think later on in the season. I've had times even down the years where I've triple captained someone on a double game week and they've returned less than a hat trick. So you know all those guys that captain Salah, triple captain is fruitful.
I think it's wait for Liverpool Fulham is the way that I'll go about it. Liverpool at home to Fulham because they don't look Premier League standard if I'm completely honest. But we'll have to see how that one goes.
They weren't great.
Scotty Parker looks hard, doesn't
he? Yeah.
He's the gleaming light in that team, and he's the one that's retired, so that says everything.
Now, obviously, we've talked you up, Matt, as being the guru. Obviously, you are the key man behind FPL Addicts and the Instagram and Twitter page, which if you haven't followed already, what are you doing? Go over and do that. Obviously, doing a great job, but obviously, you've explained how you went. You were rather happy with that, I guess?
Yeah, 72 points is good. The average this week was 50, so that's across the board for Fantasy League. 50 points, 72 points myself is, above that average. So happy to go again this week, and hopefully can hit that 80 plus point mark. I try to average 80 points a week is what I kind of look for. So I'll take 72.
And obviously, we've got the little mini league that we're running with Esports Live and FPL Addicts. Who's Steve in a way to start that one off?
But I'm happy to have a quick chat about the mini league. So at the moment, we've got up to 100 players in there, you guys all included. At this stage, top of the league is Steven Stathikis, 100 points. So we've got a pretty good standard in our league at the moment. Our top 20 players all beat the average of 50 points, so can't complain there. We've got a high standard of fantasy league players in our league, so happy with that. In terms of the captains, 75% of our league captained Salah, so it's good to see we've got a high standard of players and happy with our with our start to our league.
As we should be.
And what about the players to watch this week, Matt? And the price rises, obviously. I think Willian, off the top of my head, I know he's risen. I think players like who else rose? I can't off the top of my head. I can't remember, but I know Willian rose. Calvert-Lewin rose. I think Mane dropped.
Yeah, Mane dropped. That's a huge one. So because it's all about everyone picks with Liverpool. It's Mane, Salah, who to pick. 50 cool. A lot of people went Mane. A lot of people go Salah, and to have a price drop on Mane now at this stage is crucial, especially if you're looking to bring in Raheem Sterling. So Raheem Sterling's priced at 12 million. Man City now start their fixtures this weekend, so to have a price drop on a Mane who was 12 million, now he's 11.9, you're not going to be able to do that straight swap Sterling to or Mane to Sterling unless you take a points hit of -4 or use your wild card this early. But what wild card game week 2 is desperate measures.
Obviously, we've talked about the teams coming back in with your United, your Cities, Villa, Burnley, and you also think of your Liverpool scoring 4, Arsenal netting 3. Which teams do you reckon we should be looking at to pick players from?
It's got to be this weekend for me. I'd be looking at Everton. So a nice home fixture against West Brom. West Brom lost convincingly at home to Leicester last week. Everton beat my club Spurs 1-0, and they did perform very well. So I think this week you've got to look at Everton assets. You've got Richarlison, so he's 8 mil as a striker. Calvert-Lewin, who, as we said before, he rose to 7.1. James Rodriguez looked the part last weekend. He was absolutely everywhere. So those 3 for me are key. So if you can have at least two of those 3, but even their defence, Pickford, who made so many saves last weekend in that first half, so you're going to get save points, potentially a clean sheet. There's Michael Keane. Is it Michael Keane? Yeah, centre back. Yeah, he set piece threat. Obviously, you won't like him, Ollie, being a ex Burnley legend, but there's Luca Dean, the left back, the French lad. He's brilliant as well. So they got some good options this week. But again, I say Everton is a good choice. If you can have 3 in there for this fixture, it would be brilliant. They've got a pretty good run coming up as well. But again, it is Everton. We said this last season with Everton, and they began to let everyone down. So yeah, be cautious. But if you can get, for me, I'm going to be looking at Richarlison. He had the most shots on goal last weekend in the Premier League, so I think he's due a goal. But anyone from Everton, and then we look at Arsenal, Aubameyang, Willian. They're great options. There's Kieran Tierney at the back. He's a fullback, brilliant option as well. Gets forward, and then you've got to look at Man United as well this weekend. First game back, home to Crystal Palace. Bruno Fernandes, penalty king, assist king, scores goals, likely on set pieces. 10.5 million. Martial 9 million. Striker. Rashford, he's now classified as a midfielder, so you're going to get more points out of him, similar to what they've done with Aubameyang. So you can't look past Man United this weekend, in my opinion. Palace did have a good start last week, but United at Old Trafford is a strong side. So for me,
should be guaranteed points in there, no, Matt?
Yeah, you'd think so. I think defensively as well, like you could look at. That's another thing as well. Who's going to be in goal for United? That's what I'm kind of.
It's the big question.
Yeah, David De Gea, and then you've got Henderson. So there's a decision there to be made, but I do think United will be good with clean sheets in their home games. Rashford, Fernandes, Martial, take your pick. There's Van der Beek, 7 million, another potential bargain. He'd arrived quite late in the box when he was back at Ajax. I remember him scoring against Spurs last year and in the Champions League as well, and he looked a tidy player. So 7 million, he could be a bargain. And I've also forgot Mason Greenwood, 7.5 million, and he's a midfielder, classified as a midfielder. So there's some bargains to be found in United for this game week.
Doesn't matter if who's keeping clean sheets if Patrick Van Aanholt pops up with another last-minute winner.
Yes, that's true.
Oh, why not?
And can't dismiss Even Palace in that fixture with Zaha. Again, he was a striker last year in Fantasy League. He's now classified as a midfielder. So he got a goal last week. He's 7 million. So there's a lot of good potential this weekend. But I think in terms of your strongest clubs, Everton, Man United, Arsenal, they look the strongest from the sort of bigger clubs, that sort of top 8-9 teams. And if you're looking lower in the table, newly promoted sides, Leeds have quite a nice fixture at home to Fulham. So Leeds assets would be good.
I think it's also worth noting when you were talking about Everton, I believe they played Salford City in the Cup. I know they won 3-0, and I think Michael Keane actually popped up with a goal himself. I think he started off the scoring from a corner. I think he scored a header. So he's also got that to add to his game. Obviously, he's a tall centre-half, comes up for corners, set pieces and stuff, so he could be a potential bargain. But just a quick question. With someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is quite relatively cheap at the minute for someone who looks to be a consistent scorer at only 7.1 million at the minute. He's got West Brom, Crystal Palace and Brighton in his next 3 fixtures. So would it be worth going with him now over Richarlison and trying to avoid a potential price rise in the future?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Me personally, I've gone Richarlison. I just feel that the number of shots Richarlison gets in goal is just incredible. Calvert-Lewin, if you need to use that money in other areas, so say you save that 0.9. Richarlison's 8 million, Calvert-Lewin's 7.1. So you save that 0.9. You can put that in another area that you feel needs strengthening, whether it's another striker, another additional defender, a better second goalkeeper option. Then you can go with Calvert-Lewin. But I think if you've got the money to spend, I'd still be going Richarlison just based on his shots, the amount of shots he has a game. Calvert-Lewin, although I do think he'll score goals, he's a bit more of a target man, holds the ball up, feeds in, Richarlison and James Rodriguez and those guys. So for me, I personally prefer Richarlison. He is a bit more expensive, but if you do need to save the money, then you would go Calvert-Lewin. But if you've got the money spare, Richarlison is the one for me.
Yep, I would definitely agree with you there. So what about this week? Obviously, as a Spurs fan yourself, the transfer activity to look out for it looks likely today that Gareth Bale, he'll be in London from what I've heard. So obviously there could be an incoming announcement for that. So what would happen with that? How do you reckon he'd be priced? And obviously as a midfielder, you'd like to think, how much do you reckon he would be and what impact would he have in the FPL league?
Oh, huge impact. Once he gets fully fit and we know what his position is going to be in the Tottenham team, I think he might be on the right hand side of a front three. So with him cutting in on his left foot, it's a huge threat. Fantasy football wise, FPL wise, midfielder. He said I think he'll be classified as a midfielder. Price range, I would hope 9.5 mil. Based on, I feel if it was Gareth Bale of 7 years ago, you're looking at premium midfielder of 12 million, like Salah type of money. But he's been out of the Premier League for a long time. He hasn't played too many games in the last 12 months. So I'd like to hope Fantasy League would price him at maybe that 9.5 kind of mark. Given Fernandes, when he come into the game last season, was priced in at 9 million. Bale has had that Premier League experience, but again, is it going to be that Gareth Bale from 7 years ago? I personally think 9.5 is a fair price. 10 at a push because he's had Premier League experience, but anything above that for me, I'm not sure if it's going to be value for money when you've got Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne, Sterling, Salah, who are all that premium price range, or Aubameyang. For me, I think he's got to be that 9.5 to sort of 10 million bracket to even consider bringing him in, just based on his 7 years away from the Premier League and his last couple of years at Madrid playing golf type of thing, as the joke sort of stands.
At all. Just quickly on Sergio Reguilon as well, who also seems to be an incoming player. Obviously, as a left back, watched him a fair bit in the Europa League. He looks quite attacking. So I think, obviously, with Matt Doherty on the other side, if he was priced anything below Matt Doherty's 6 million, I think he could be quite a bargain in that Spurs and a cheap way into that Spurs defence for an attacking fullback.
No, I agree. He got La Liga left back of the year last season. I believe he made, I think, four goals and 8 assists from left back. I could be wrong, but that's what I was reading recently. But he'd be if he's anything under Doherty, we're looking at potentially Mourinho's talking about a 3-4-3. So he'll have his 3 centre backs, then the 4, and then the 3 up front. So you'd see Doherty and the new left back on bombing up the left, and he's less than bombing up the left. If you've got Reguilon flying up the left hand side and he's less than 6 million, which Doherty is on the other side, then you could be looking at a bargain, especially with Mourinho's. He likes to keep it tight at the back, watershed defence, part of the bus type of stuff. And although Spurs conceded last night and last week in the Premier League, I do think Mourinho is going to really want Spurs to be keeping those clean sheets. So potentially some attacking returns and clean sheets in one with those guys. And also going back on the Harry Kane point with Ollie earlier on, letting him down, and I know he let Jack down in his team as well, and as captain. I think with Bale in the side, we're going to see a lot more opportunities for Harry Kane, a bit more creativity, a better final ball, which is what we really lacked last weekend against Everton.
Onto the differentials now for this game week. So the players outside of the normal bracket, outside of the Salahs, the Aubameyangs, the players that you can get into your team that will make a difference and help you move up the league without everyone else gaining off them as well.
Again, I'm going to point back to Everton again. I know I've said Richarlison, James, Calvert-Lewin are the guys to have in terms of the traditional attacking players from Everton. But again, I've thrown Decore in there, a new signing from Watford. He's got 2.6% ownership. He's less than 6 mil. His stats at Watford were pretty good. He'd come up with goals. I think him at 2.6% ownership is a very good differential. Low price, cost effective. Jack Harrison at Leeds might be a unpopular one with you boys, with you being being Northerners in a way, you Northern lads, not like in the old Leeds boys, but yeah, looking at Jack Harrison, low 2.9% ownership, again 5.5 mil, I believe he is.
He scored a cracking goal as well.
Cracking goal against Liverpool. So Jack Harrison and Decore are 2 low ownership players that I'd be looking at this week.
I know a lot of mine and Ollie's mates are looking at James Rodriguez at 7 million. Obviously, created 5 or 6 key chances against you lot. Just Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin couldn't get on the end of them. Do you think he could also be a shout as a differential?
Yeah, James. I haven't seen what his current ownership is for this week.
12%.
12%. Yeah, 7.5 million. Again, that's lower than your Fernandez's, your De Bruyne's, your Sterling's, your Salah's, your Sons. So with 12% ownership, yeah, why not? I'd be saying that's certainly a differential. He's only in one out of every sort of 12 teams, 10 teams. So yeah, James is a great shout.
I think if we were just quickly to pop back to Leeds, and obviously as a Blackburn fan, one player who impressed me or who got on the score sheet a lot for Leeds last season, I think he did it at Ewood in the home game that we had against them last season, and I think again the season before. So the last 2 times they played us at Ewood Park was Matthias Klick, who got 9 at the weekend, who with a goal. I think he might be one from Leeds that has been gone under the radar a little bit. Good going forward, and on the chances can take. So I think he's one that we could look at if we are looking towards Leeds. Just moving on quickly. Now, obviously, we're doing a little thing similar to what you might see as the scout selection on FPL's Twitter, which we've called the Scout Pick of the Week, which basically we've got we'll draft a team within the 100 mil budget. I'm sure there'll be a lot of disagreements, but let's bring up what we have put together for that. And Matt will just go through what the thought process was.
Pickford in goal, West Brom, home fixture, plenty of save points last week against Spurs, clean sheet. For me this weekend, probably the best choice, along with, I do like the look of the Manchester United goalkeepers, but again, like, who are they going to play, De Gea or Henderson? So for me, Pickford this weekend, off the back of a brilliant performance last week in goal. Wan-Bissaka, fullback, gets forward, gets assists. Very big on the bonus points. Home to Palace, low-scoring team, Crystal Palace. So Wan-Bissaka's in there. Gabriel, impressed last week, scored for Arsenal, manned the match with the 3 bonus points. Nice home fixture again against West Ham. Justin, Leicester, very cheap. Home to Burnley, again another team that's quite low scoring. Leicester kept a clean sheet last week. Home fixture. Bruno Fernandes, home fixture. Man United, penalties.
It's always the first thing to mention when Bruno Fernandes' name pops up.
It's our only gift.
He's got a lot more to his game, to be fair.
He does.
Yeah.
Last year, coming in January, I think it's the best impact any player's ever made coming into the Premier League. Like, I don't think there's many arguments against that, right?
No.
He's got to be in there. So I think he's right to be in there, buddy.
Yeah, 10.5 million as well. So he's cheaper than your De Bruyne, Sterling type of players. So I think you've got to put Bruno Fernandes for me. I've not got him in my own side as of yet, but he's coming in. He's coming in as soon as Arsenal's form, if it does decline, Aubameyang's coming out, and Fernandes is coming in for that extra 1.5 mil save. So got to have Fernandes.
I think you could tell with his impacts due to just it being the fact that people were considering team of the seasons after coming in after half a year, half the season in January, just shows the impact he's had. And I think he's revitalised the Man United squad that looked, pretty much dead in the water throughout this first half of last season, and really powered them towards, a European challenge. But I just think of a player like Fernandes and his FPL numbers under a manager like Sir Alex Ferguson back in the day. If you had him in that midfield, you just think how well he'd play. So he's definitely an option to proceed forward with. Again, I've ignored him, but I think he's definitely one to go with, give him maybe this week and see how he goes, and then bring him into. I think a lot of sides will be bringing him in after this week.
I agree. Moving on, I've gone with Salah. So again, this is one a few people would say, look, why have you not gone for like a Willian or someone that's a bit lower in terms of their price? But with the hat-trick last week from Salah, I know 2 of them were penalties, but again, with VAR around at the moment, we seem to be seeing a lot of penalties. So I can't not include Salah after his hat-trick last week. 20-point score, criminal to not include him this weekend in my eyes. Aubameyang, captain's armband, home to West Ham. Elliot addressed it quite well earlier. Newcastle were able to go there and score 2 goals away at West Ham. So I think West Ham away at the Emirates could easily, concede 2 or 3 goals. So Aubameyang's got to be in there this week. Moving on to James Rodriguez. We spoke about him a lot so far. Lots of creativity, lots of shots on goal. Looked brilliant last weekend against Spurs. Then with the 3 strikers, Callum Wilson, goal last week. 3 bonus points, I believe, as well.
I think they went to Jeff Hendrick, if I'm not mistaken.
Jeff Hendrick?
He got the goal and the assist. I think he got 3, and I think Wilson got 2, if I'm not mistaken. Believe so.
He was in and around the box. He had quite a few attempts on goal as well, and could have easily had a couple. So home to Brighton. Brighton just come off the back of 3 goals shipped against Chelsea. They look like they've got mistakes in them. They conceded a penalty. There was a deflected goal. So Wilson at home. Good win for Newcastle last week. Got to back Callum Wilson in there. Well priced as well. You can get him for 6.6 right now.
Did he rise?
Did he rise?
I don't think so. He might have done. I wouldn't be surprised, because everyone was sort of looking at him or Mitrovic going that 0.5 above to sort of try and get him in his team. And he's also got a good goal scoring record against Brighton, and obviously as a formerly Bournemouth man, he'll love to score against the Seagulls, no doubt about that.
I agree. And then Richarlison, we spoke about him again many a time today. Most shots on goal last weekend out of any player in the Premier League. Home to West Brom. They got hammered against Leicester. Got to have another Everton player in there. gone with a triple up on Everton. Again, like Everton are one of those teams, when you put your faith in them, they let you down. But I'm hoping that this is the season for Fantasy League where these guys don't let us down. And then last striker, Bamford, Leeds, scored at Anfield last week. Home game against Fulham. Fulham looked pretty dreadful last week against Arsenal. Bamford seems to be the one that they're starting now. I thought maybe Rodrigo was going to be in there ahead of him, but off a goal last week, home to Fulham, to fit him within this, to keep it within the 100 million budget, he's a good budget option to have, because you've got your big hitters, Fernandes, Salah, or Aubameyang, and then you want to get your lower price guys in there. Bamford is perfect for me this weekend at home to Fulham.
So, Matt, you've made that team there. We'll track how that goes and report back on that next week. In terms of your own team, though, what changes have you made going into game week 2?
Well, I've put Richarlison in. I did have Danny Ings. Danny Ings had a great season last season, and he does have very good sort of 5 to 10 fixtures coming up. But I couldn't look past an Everton striker this weekend. And I've got a 4-5-1. My team's a 4-5-1. I've only got one forward. So I need that striker to be performing every week, to be getting assists and goals. Ings at home to Spurs. Obviously, there's a bit of bias from me being Spurs, but I just thought tougher fixture than what Everton have at home to West Brom. So Richarlison straight in there for me. Save myself a 0.5 because Ings is 8.5 mil. Richarlison's 8 mil. And then I can use that spare change next weekend and bring someone in where required. So Richarlison for me, I've gone with a 4-5-1 again, and that's captain wise as well. I'll be looking at Aubameyang with a vice captain of Richarlison. That's my pick for this week.
Obviously, we've Jack, you've mooted the big changes this week. You've said how you've built it up. You've said how crucial they're going to be in your team moving forward. Please elaborate.
All right, boys. Well, obviously, I played a bit of fantasy suicide this week already. Made some wholesale changes and spent a few points, which is obviously against. I didn't want to use that wild card just yet, so I might have been better just starting this week rather than starting week 1 with the changes. But yeah, I think I made 7 changes in total, actually, to be fair. Spent 24 points. I know the guru won't be too happy with that, but
that's too many points, Jack.
That's too many, but like I said, I should have started week 2. So what I've done, I took Trent out this week and put Reece James in after his performance, and obviously it got me a few extra pounds to spend. So Rob Holding went in there. I kept Justin and Douglas in, especially with Douglas this week at Fulham. I'm expecting obviously a result in there. Justin performing well. So I put Mitchell. I kept Mitchell in there as well, but he's gone to the bench. So I've gone 4-5-1. I kept Aubameyang in there. I took Mane out and brought Salah in after his performance. Obviously regretting that one from week 1. William was in my week 1. Obviously, he was class, and I've put him again. But I am actually a bit concerned about William going forward. Obviously, competition for places in the Arsenal team. I think Arteta under Guardiola would have learned about the rotation, and he'll be rotating very shortly. So I think I'll leave William in there for this week, and I'll look to be bringing someone like maybe Greenwood in, perhaps. Similar pricing, a bit cheaper actually at the minute. So I'll be looking to switch them 2 over. But yeah, William retains, and then I brought De Bruyne in. I needed to get him in early. It was up between him and Fernandes. Obviously, I do fancy Fernandes a lot, but I think De Bruyne, obviously, if you don't have him in your fantasy team, I don't know, it's too scary not to have him in there. And then with Kane absolutely let me down, and Mourinho getting on my nerves, I've taken them out, and Martial is in, and I think Martial is going to run riot against Crystal Palace. But I have made Aubameyang captain this week, and Martial is my vice. And then I don't even want to talk about my bench. Obviously, you can imagine spending all that money. It's all
save
on
that
there.
for the injured players and the 4 millions and the ones that you've never heard of that get loaned out to League 3 teams for a season. That's what they're for.
No,
yeah, all good from me, and fingers crossed for a better game week 2.
He's taking a lot of hits.
You're going to need it.
Jack.
I'm going to need it. I'm going big.
As you correct, I don't think I can say it better myself. FPL suicide. Let's see if you have a revival by next week. Now, Elliot, you've got a 3-point head start over me, which I'm pretty already annoyed about. Obviously, you won the league that I made last year. Obviously, I'd won the 2 before that, but moving on quickly from that. What are you doing this week?
Not the past.
Exactly, mate.
I'm rolling over from my team this week. I'm not going to make any changes at all, to be honest. I don't think, other than the vice captain is going to go to Kane, who I'm going to stick with. Southampton, I think he should get a goal. I said that against Everton, though. Obviously, Southampton don't look great defensively, but I'm going to back him to score. And I've also still got Son in the midfield. So I said it in the first week. One of them's bound to do something. Both did nothing, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm rolling over. Aubameyang keeps the captain's armband for me. West Ham, it should be guaranteed points almost, but we can only hope for that. And then I'll probably look forwards to getting someone like De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, maybe Anthony Martial looks quite enticing at 9 million. Obviously priced beneath Vardy, Kane. And obviously he's a very capable goal scorer in the future. But for me, this week, absolutely no changes.
Yeah, I'm not making any transfers, but I'm just going to quickly make the one change, bringing someone on from my bench. And it was someone I'm bringing on who was a player who actually wore the shirt that I'm currently wearing at the minute, was on loan at Blackburn in 18-19. If I just bring my team back up, I'm not going to make any transfers. I'm going to roll over just as Elliot is. But here's where I'm looking at. I'm switching from a back 5 to a back 4 this week, and I'm bringing on the Ginger Javy himself, Harrison Reed, who was a brilliant player for Rovers in that little loan season he had. I wish we'd signed him on, but obviously he went to Fulham on loan from Southampton and got promoted and signed them permanently. I'm currently benching Kyle Walker-Peters because obviously the double Southampton against Tottenham, I want to minimise that pretty much. And because obviously I want the 2 Tottenham assets to do something, I'm going to bench that one and then bring it back to a back 5 next week. So I was playing a 5-3-2 to start. The captaincy will go on to Aubameyang. Not sure where to place my vice, I think, or I could even go my captain is Salah, but I'm going to keep it as Aubameyang for now, but that may change before the deadline. I think that's at 8 o'clock, is it? For us out there, 8 o'clock, obviously Melbourne time on Saturday night. So that might change before then. Obviously, it's a really, really annoying game week because obviously I've got a lot of Southampton and Tottenham assets which will clash. Hence why I tried to bench Walker-Peters to take that away from that. But otherwise, I'll be rolling over with a view to maybe dropping Son or dropping Aubameyang to get in some of those Manchester City and Manchester United assets next week. But that's game week 1 wrapped up and game week 2 previewed. Hope you've enjoyed the first episode of the FPL podcast run by Esports Live in partnership with FPL Addicts. Hope you'll join us back next week where we'll probably be rage trading and transferring out all of our players. But I hope you'll join us back. Wildcard played. All the chips out the window, all the toys out the pram. And I hope you join us next week so we can review this game week, look forward to the one upcoming. And so I hope you've enjoyed this one with all 4 of us on. We'll be back next week. See you then.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this live esports fixture here.